Hey everybody, Devin here with Stuff on Scammers, and today we're back with another video. And in this video I'm going to talk about some of the common tech support scamming tactics and go over them and how they're a scam and just basically a few of the common tactics I've seen. I've seen some pretty oddball ones, but I'm not going to cover those because they're not as common. I've probably only seen them once or twice, and I probably can't remember them either way, but I know there's been some other ones that I've seen that are really out there that are different from other scammers. But I'm going to go over some of the common tactics. I usually cover what the scammer does in each one of my scam baits and explain how it's a scam, but I don't really go into too much detail and really explain how it's a scam and the tactics they use. So, excuse me. So today we're going to talk about some of the tactics they use to make you believe that there's something wrong with your computer when there really isn't. So the first tactic is a tactic that I'm sure everybody has seen. It's a very old tactic, one tactic that I've seen all the time. And it has to do with CMD. So, for those of you guys who don't know what CMD is basically a command prompt. And basically what it allows you to do is type in various commands to do various things with your computer. It's kind of like an application version of DOS, if you will, but not exactly like DOS, but it's kind of what it looks like. So, if you type in help, there's a whole bunch of different commands you can run, and you can run this on your computer and you can see all the different commands and what they do. So, I mean, it can be kind of useful, I guess, if you're trying to do certain things, or you're just trying to look cool and open things through command prompt. I mean, I don't know. I guess I really don't see much of the point of command prompt too much anymore, other than they do stuff that you can't do with the interface. I don't know. Anyway, so one of the common tactics that scammers usually do is they'll run what's called the tree command. And they'll do this, and basically what this does is it sets the, so when we first started, I was in C users Richard dilly dot, and so doing cd dot dot brings you back a folder, so now I'm in C users, and the slash brings you to the hard drive, so now I'm in the root of the hard drive. And the reason why scammers do this is because when they run the tree command, they want it to run as long as possible, so they have enough time to type in their fake message that it's going to show up in the bottom. If they just run it from this, it's only going to do the tree command in this folder, and there's not very many things in that folder, so it will not take it very long. So basically what the tree command does is it's exactly as it sounds. It creates a tree of all the files in your computer in a certain directory. So if I type in tree, it'll create a tree listing of everything in my hard drive. So it's exactly as it sounds. So I don't know. You might be wondering what's the point of this command. To be honest with you, I have no idea what the point of this command is. It doesn't make much sense. I don't know. So scammers usually run this, and as it's running, they'll say that different things. They'll say that they're scanning for a virus, they're scanning your network, or they're doing something like that. They're scanning something. So they'll run it, and as it's running, they'll type, for example, so as it's running, they'll type, let's say, virus found. So once this finishes, then at the bottom it'll say virus found. So it makes it really believable if you don't know what you're doing. So see, it created a tree listing of everything that's in my C drive. You can see all the different files. Now if you want a more in-depth listing, you can do tree/f and it'll give you even more in-depth listing. So another thing that scammers will do if they really want you to believe, I haven't seen this in a while, is they'll run the tree command again, and they'll do virus found, and then they'll do this. Okay, I didn't type it fast enough. But they'll do, let's forget the color red. Okay, so they'll change the color to red, and then it'll say virus found to make it more believable that there's something wrong with your computer. I haven't seen that in a while, but it's something that scammers usually do to make you believe there's something wrong with your computer when there isn't. So another thing that scammers will run that's very similar to the tree command is they'll run the dir/s command. And this basically does the same thing, and this just runs a little bit longer. It just lists all the directories in your computer, and then they'll do the same thing. They'll type virus found, or they'll paste a message. Type anything. So then when it's finished, it'll say at the bottom virus found, or whatever they say, or whatever they want to type out. And sometimes if you listen real closely, you can actually hear them typing it out. This is something that I've seen numerous times. Another thing that you'll notice sometimes is that the scammers don't actually type fast enough, like what happened to me. The first time I ran it, it's just showing, you can still see him typing out the fake message. And, that happens more often than you might think. It may seem silly and stupid, but it happens more often than you might think. Scammers are just that dumb, and I don't know, it's just stupid. So anyway, you get the point. I'm not gonna say make you wait through all that. So another thing that scammers do in CMD is they run what's called the netstat command. And typically scammers will lie about these active connections that show up here. They'll say that their third parties trying to connect, or that their hackers trying to connect, different things like that. And really the only thing this is so basically there's two different type of network protocols. There's TCP and UDP, and sometimes they can be combined. But anyway, the only thing that netstat does is it lists the active TCP connections going to and from your computer, and currently there's only one, and that probably, and who knows what it is, that it could be anything that's using a TCP protocol on the machine. And more often than not, scammers will say that this is somebody trying to connect to your computer, this is a foreign hacker trying to connect, and usually it says established, and they'll say that since it says established, that this means that the hackers connect with the computer. But really the only thing it is that just connections to and from your computer that are over the TCP protocol, and most of the time it's actually the scammer's remote software that's showing up in this page here. So it's a lie, it's fake, it's not real. So don't fall for this tactic. Alright, trying to think what else here. So another thing that scammers usually do and like to lie about is if we go, oh shoot, go away. Okay. So this program is called Event Viewer. And what this program does, it just keeps a log of all the different things that happen with your computer. It just logs basically everything, all the critical things and just stuff like that. Like for example, if you shut down your computer improperly by, hard booting it, or in other words, just holding the power button until it shuts off, it logs that as not being able to shut down properly. Just stuff like that, general maintenance logs, if you will. And wait for this to open here. The virtual machine gets very slow when the screen recorder is running, so I'm hopefully going to buy an SSD soon and hopefully rectify that issue because I'm kind of tired of it. Alright, so this is, like as I previously stated, Event Viewer. So what they usually do is they'll go into here and once it loads, if it'll load. Looking for, okay, it's still loading. Well, that loads. I'm going to show you something else. So another thing that scammers usually do while this is loading, I'll show you this. So this is the system configuration panel application, and basically I haven't seen scammers use this as often lately, but I've seen them a lot, and it's pretty inexchangeable how they use this program, and I'll show you the other way that they use this. And so basically this allows you to configure mostly stuff that happens on startup, your boot selection and your partitions and different things like that, and programs that start up in your when you turn on your computer and just different things like this. So usually they'll go over to the services tab and then they'll do this, and then they'll tell you that all these stop services are because of the virus or whatever the case may be, the hackers or whatever, and that all these services are being stopped and that they all need to be in a running state. But the truth of the matter is that all these services don't need to be running. For example, if you look at the BitLocker service, this service does not need to be running. I do not have anything on this virtual machine that's encrypted. I have no encryption on the hard drive or anything like that, so there's no reason why that needs to be running. Another example would be the fax. I have no fax machine on this machine, connected to this virtual machine, and I don't even think I own a fax machine. Actually, yes I do. I don't have it connected though, but regardless, I'm not using the fax. I'm not faxing anything. There's nothing connected to this virtual machine. So why would that need to be running? So you just kind of pay attention, and when they say things like that, for example, Bluetooth support services. My computer does not have Bluetooth, so that does not need to be running. Why would that need to be running if I didn't have a Bluetooth hardware to work with the service? So, I mean, as you can see, it's all a bunch of lies. These services start when they need to start, and they stop when they don't need to be running. The running services are things that I'm actually using, DNS and firewall and plug and play, for USBs and stuff like that. Power, different things that your computer uses, like Windows Update. Um, so something you just gotta kind of pay attention to. And another way they'll do this too is they'll go into so basically this program here, it just gives you like general information about your computer, and they'll do the same thing. This is how scammers have been usually been doing it lately that I've seen. Is they'll go into I don't know if I can find it. They'll go into system drivers and they'll do the same thing. They'll tell you that the stop drivers are stopped because of the virus, hacker, whatever the case may be. Oh, there's an update from Malwarebytes. I'll install that later. Anyway, they'll say that since these aren't running, it's because of the virus, hacker, whatever. But again, oh shoot, I'll install you later. But again, just look at the services that are stopped. Like I already said, I don't have a Bluetooth device in here, so there's no reason for this to be running. If you look, this thing gives you more of a different thing, remote control and free call control, but I'm not doing anything like that, so it doesn't need to be running. CD-ROM driver, I don't have a CD-ROM in my computer. Never put one in, don't want one, don't need one. So that doesn't need to be there. There's no reason for it to be there, or to be running, I mean. AMD processor driver, I have an Intel processor, so why would the AMD driver be running? So I mean, you kind of get the point. Not all of these need to be running. They run when they need to run, and the ones that don't need to run don't. Like mouse driver and things like that. Obviously, that's running, and different things like this that your computer uses to run. USB controller, VMware stuff, because it's a virtual machine. Um, anyway, so that's just something you got to keep your eye out for. Another thing scammers will do is they'll look at the Windows error reporting. This kind of has a tie with Event Viewer here, which I think is loading. Alright, so while I wait for this one to load, I'll talk about this guy again. So as I previously stated, this is Windows Event Viewer. And basically it just lists all the events of different things that go on in your computer. It's nothing that's that big of a deal. It could be very helpful if you're, trying to diagnose an issue with something wrong with your computer. It could be kind of helpful. But basically, they'll say that the number of events in here is they'll say different things. They'll say that these are all the viruses, or these are all the warnings of my computer's trying to give me about the virus, or different things like that, or that all the errors and warnings are viruses, and that these all need to be removed. But the truth of the matter is, like I already stated, these are normal errors and warnings, and they don't mean anything. They aren't harmful. They're in every single computer. They're not harmful. They're just different things that go on in your computer that are just logged. They're not harmful at all, and it doesn't mean that anything is wrong with your computer. So if scammer ever tells you that these are all viruses, or these are all the errors and warnings that your computer is trying to give you about a virus, and they're full of bullshit, because it isn't, and that's all there really is to it. And they'll do the same thing over here. They'll say the same thing, that these are all viruses, or that these are all the warnings that my computer is trying to give off, but they really aren't. It's just where all the errors are reported that happen in the computer. They're not significant. They're not critical by any nature. They're just normal errors that happen in every computer. So, excuse me. With that being said, that's something you just don't believe it. It's bullshit. Alright, so another thing that scammers do, I'm trying to remember everything off the top of my head. Oh, I gotta remember how to do this in Windows 8. I didn't even go there. Alright, so I believe, oh, I don't want that. Oops, I do not want that. I gotta remember how to find it. Okay, that's where we just were. Alright, I found it. I cannot remember where the hell this damn thing is always located at. But anyway, another thing that scammers usually say is they'll come into here and they'll come into Action Center, which is basically this section of your computer that tells you different things about your computer. Some, like, things that you actually do need to know, like if your antivirus, like if you don't have something installed, an antivirus installed, it'll nag you to install one. I mean, if you're somebody that's pretty good with computers, a computer enthusiast, can't talk today. That's almost an enthusiast. Um, this would be something along the lines of nagging center, because it does nothing but nag, and nag. Um, it'll tell you if you got to install updates. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So they'll say that network access protection agent is not running, and they'll say this needs to be running, and it's not running because of the virus or whatever the situation may be. And the truth of the matter is, this service does not need to be running, and it's in fact disabled by default. The only time this service needs to be running is when you are connected to a domain controller, and if you don't know what that is, then more than likely that does not need to be running. And for those who don't know what that is, a domain controller is something that is in a most time a business or corporate environment, something like that, where all different machines connect to this one server, and it provides different things like Windows account logins and files, and it's basically a server for all the other computers that are connected into a domain, and then the server controls the rest of the computers. And that's probably the best way I can put it. If somebody in the comment section wants to expand on that, then by all means go ahead, because that's like a very vague and undescriptive thing of what a domain controller is. So, that is that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh. So what you're looking at here is Windows Prefetch folder. This contains different driver files and different things like that. And scammers usually say that this is that these files are either, they'll say different things. They'll say that these files are junk files, or that they'll say that these files are all viruses or spywares or whatever. Or sometimes they'll point out individual files, like for example, a popular one to point out is rundll32.exe. They'll say that this is a virus that happened recently in one of my videos. And the truth of the matter is that this is not a virus. These are not viruses. Most of the time, some of these, things you need here are necessary for your computer. For example, the rundll.32.exe. If that isn't there, your computer's not going to run. That's like the core service of your computer, the run32 DLL. It's not a virus. These aren't viruses. These are completely safe files. Normal on every computer. But anyway. Actually, I have a quick correction. These are not drivers. These are the programs that Windows puts in here for use, to help us start up a bit quicker. For example, I just noticed that Scammer Rolls pop-up was in here earlier. I don't know. I get this confused with the other folder that I can't think of the name. But anyway, another tactic that scammers use. Okay, I didn't spell that right. Making a fool of myself. Can't think of the. So another tactic that scammers sometimes use, I don't see it as often anymore, but they'll go over the performance tab on your machine, and they can say different things with this. They'll say that the CPU speed is your network security. This is a recent one that I've heard, and that it needs to be at 100%. And what the guy did, he said that when you're connected to the Microsoft Secure Server, watch what happens. And then he did this. He said that notice that it's at 100% when you're connected to my server, and that it doesn't fall below 50. And that's nothing but a bunch of bullshit. They also say, sometimes they'll say that this needs to be running at 100% or it's not running as efficiently because of the virus or something like that. And they'll say, watch what happens when I connect it to the server, and then they'll do the same thing and they'll do this. basically the only thing this is, and you could try this yourself, is if you go into Task Manager and go over to the Performance tab and you hold down the F5 key, all this does is rapidly refresh this. This has nothing to do with the network, it has nothing to do with anything like that. And the truth of the matter is, the lower your CPU percentage is, the better it is. And obviously it's running a little bit high right now because this is a virtual machine and I'm recording on my physical machine, so it doesn't surprise me that it's pretty high. And it probably isn't all that accurate, to be honest with you, because like I said, this is a virtual machine. So, yep, that's really what I gotta say about that. Sometimes they'll go over here, and I haven't seen this as often, but they'll do the same thing as they did with MS Info and MS Config. They'll lie again about the stop services, and they'll say it's stopped because of the virus and different things like that. Basically the same thing as before, and as I said earlier, different things like, for example, Windows installer. I'm not installing anything. Why would that need to be running right now? They don't all need to be running at the same time. So just stuff you need to, pay attention to. Otherwise, I'm trying to think. I think I covered basically everything that I've seen most commonly used. A couple things you want to avoid. Any programs that look like they're, I guess the best way I could put it, any program that a scammer installs on your computer that looks like eye candy. And what I mean by eye candy is, I mean the program looks nice, it's satisfying to use. They got these big humongous bubble buttons, and then they've got different things, these little colorful progress bars and things like that tell you all these different things that are wrong with your computer. But then when you get them all cleaned up, I don't know, it's a satisfying thing to use basically, but it doesn't actually do anything. Something like that. You want to make sure that when scammers install something on your computer, you want to make sure that if it's a program you've never heard of and it's not very reputable, more than likely it's not real. Like for example, that scammer that I'm trying to think what that program was called. Advanced something or other, I don't remember what it was called, but I've had a few situations where scammers have installed fake bogus programs on the machine and try to tell me that something's wrong when there really isn't. And if I could find some, I'll go through my videos and I'll find links and I'll put those in the description as to what I'm talking about. Another thing you want to avoid is I haven't seen this, I've probably only seen this once or twice, is if scammers go online and say they're going to scan your computer with this online scanning tool, and they click in and it says it's scanning your computer, but it really isn't. There's no way that Internet Explorer, these websites or anything like that, can scan your computer from the internet like that. It's not possible. There's no way. So if you ever see a scammer do that, it's a scam. There's no way. If I could find, let's see if I can find that site. Just a second. Okay, I couldn't find it. But actually, let me reword that. If the scanning tool they're asking you to use, it asks you to download like a little tool or something like that to go along with it, then that is a legit online scan. But if it's just something that says scan now on the web page and it doesn't want you to download anything, then it's complete bullshit, because there's no way that website can detect viruses on your computer without having some way of getting inside your computer to scan something. But like I said, if it asks you to download, like a little tool or something to go along with it, then that makes sense. Then it can scan and it'll give you the results online. But anyway, that's just something you want to look out for. Obviously, don't believe fake pop-ups. If you ever get a fake pop-up, you want to do, let's see. So let's say that, we'll say for example that there's a fake pop-up open right here, even though there isn't. So let's say that I had a fake pop-up open here. What you could try to do is you could try closing out of the pop-up if you want to. Usually that doesn't work. So you want to do Control-Shift-Escape on your keyboard, and basically this will open up Task Manager. And if you're running Windows 7 and below, you want to right-click whatever browser that the pop-up was open. You want to right-click it and then go to Properties, and then it'll take you to a page that kind of looks like this. And then you want to click End Task. Now if you're on Windows 8 and above, you want to right click, go to Details, and then click End Task, and then End Process, and that will get rid of it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you are connected, if a scammer does any of the tactics you see here, or the scammer does something that you're kind of questioning, you know, the legitimacy of. Obviously, I can't talk about every single tactic that scammer has done. I'm just talking about some of the most common tactics that I've seen. I'm just making sure I covered most of them. Um, the first thing you want to do is, if you know the scammer is a scam, the agent connected is a scammer, you do not, and do not, and I can't emphasize this enough, do not tell them you know it's a scam. As you've seen throughout all of my videos, if you guys have been here for a while, you'll know that scammers react differently when you tell them that. Most recently, they kind of just hang up, or they'll say some stupid things and then hang up. You got to keep in mind that they're connected to your machine, so they could do whatever they want to. They could put a syskey on your machine, and for those of you who don't know what that is, syskey basically locks you out of your computer, and if you don't have the password, you can't get back into it when you restart. I don't understand why that's in Windows. I have no idea the purpose of it. It's totally, I don't understand what the point of it is. I didn't even know it existed until I started scam baiting. And if anybody that's wants to fill me in on that, what he used for syskey is, you know, glad to hear it in the comment section, because I don't know what the purpose of it is. I don't understand. But anyway, scammers react differently when you tell them that you know it's a scam and you're not comfortable with this, yada yada yada. The first thing you want to do is you want to disconnect them from the machine. Now, if you're using LogMeIn, and I don't know about any other program, but if you're using LogMeIn, if you press the pause break button on your keyboard, they're connected through LogMeIn, that'll kick them out of the machine. Any other program, they usually have like if it's fast support, they usually have like a little disconnect button. You can click here and disconnect. If it's something like TeamViewer, you can close out of it. You can come down here, right click and close out of it. If you can't do that, the last resort for you is you can hard boot your computer. Just unplug it, or you know, power it down. I don't recommend that you hard boot your computer. If you can kick them out gracefully, then do so. Once you do get your computer back on, though, you want to make sure that that the program they use is off your computer, and you could do this by going into Control Panel and just deleting whatever program they had you install, whether it be TeamViewer, Fast Support, LogMeIn, different things like that, just to make sure they have no other access into your computer. And then after you get them out of your computer, you could tell them that you know it's a scam or whatever. You could do whatever you want after that, up to that point. And then from there, they can't do anything because you kicked them out of their computer, so they can't, you know, harm your computer or anything like that. Now, if you've been scammed, if they scammed you out of, you know, say $300, $400, $1,000, and this is something that I feel like I was gonna say for a separate video, but I guess I'll combine it into this video. And something I get asked quite a bit, and especially recently with different things, like especially like, oh God, I can't. So different things I've been asked about lately is, you know, I've just been scammed, and lately American Geeks have been doing a lot of scamming. I've just been scammed. What do I do? How do I? What do I do now? What do I do next? And the first thing is you want to make sure, like I said, they're out of your machine, and you can do that with doing the various steps I just told you. And once they're out, you want to make sure they stay out. So delete any remote software programs that they may have installed, or that they told you to install. Sometimes scammers will install a remote program and then they'll install one themselves, so they have double access. You want to make sure, if that is the case, that you delete both programs. A couple of things that you could ask the scammer when you're talking to tech support. A couple of things you can ask is that you can ask that if, for example, using LogMeIn, you can ask the technician if you can have the little window open where you can see it, because and most technicians I think would be okay with that, because services like LogMeIn, and I haven't seen scammers use LogMeIn in a while, they could do different things like transfer your personal files to them, and I've seen that happen quite often. Scammers will try to transfer the files that are on the virtual machine to their computer when there's nothing on here, so they do that. I really could care less, but I mean, in a situation like that, you want to make sure that that isn't happening. So if they're using something like LogMeIn or some sort of service that allows them to do file transfers, you want to make sure that you are able to see if that happens. So that way, and if they are transferring your personal files to their computer, disconnect them, because there's no reason for a tech support agent to be doing something like that. That's totally invasion of privacy, and that's not a company that should be trusted. Um, oh, I'm getting way off sidetracked. I'm trying to think of what I was just talking about. But anyway, if you were scammed, like I said, you want to make sure the scammer's out. So you want to delete any programs that they may have installed, and as well as any remote software that they've installed. And you can do this by going into Control Panel. The next thing I recommend you do is that you run your antivirus. So whatever you have installed on your computer, whether that be Komodo, Windows Defender, AVG, Avast, Norton, McAfee, the most common ones. Whatever you have installed on your computer, you want to run that just to make sure they didn't leave anything behind. And a couple other programs I recommend you download and run is Malwarebytes, Crap Cleaner, Cleanup, and Spybot. These are all programs that I run. I try to run on a weekly basis. And basically, Spybot and Malwarebytes, they do kind of as they sound. Malwarebytes scans for malware, Spybot scans for spyware, and Cleanup and Crap Cleaner just cleans up any junk files that are left in your computer, like cache files and different things like that. So, like for example, if you had a pop-up that came up, it would clean up anything that the pop-up may have left behind. Because I've seen it happen multiple times that pop-ups leave little traces of things behind that are, I won't say that they're harmful, but it makes the antivirus go off sometimes. And also, if they did actually take money, and like I said, you were actually scammed, you want to call your bank, call your credit card company, and talk to them. And more than likely, they'll work with you. And you want to make sure you get your refund back, and they'll work with you. It's something that they deal with probably on a pretty often basis. So they'll work with you. Ask them to freeze your account or close your account, because more than likely, you probably want to at least freeze your account, because more than likely, scammers are going to try to charge that card again. This is something that scammers do all the time. It's something that I've heard and seen happen multiple times based on stories that I've heard from other people, is that scammers will actually charge your card multiple times, and then they'll call you multiple times saying that they're detecting all sorts of errors and warnings and that they need to check it out, and then they'll charge your card again, never mind that you just bought 3 years support 5 weeks ago or whatever. So it's a big joke, basically. Scammers are, all they want is your money. They could care less about your computer, and they lie to you. So with that all being said, if they do call you again, you want to write down the phone number they call you from, the people you talk to, and different things like that, just so you can kind of have a log of what goes on. If you're really still uncomfortable, you can always change your bank account and cancel it and open another one, or you can always change your phone number, things like that, because more than likely these scammers are going to call from different numbers, and sometimes may even be spoof numbers. Obviously that's a huge hassle, but I don't know, it's just the reality of it, I guess. The last thing I recommend you do if you're scammed is that you report the scam to the FTC and your local police department. I think that and the BBB, if you can find their company information on the Better Business Bureau, more people will. And this is something that a lot of people don't like doing. They don't like admitting that they were scammed. And the thing is that they always tell me, in an email that, I'm so ashamed I fell for this, yada yada yada. The thing is, though, if you don't know so much about computers, this is a very believable things that these tactics these scammers do. If I didn't know anything about computers, I would have fell for this too. Like, for example, when I was 13 years old and I didn't know a whole lot about computers, or 12, however old I was, I don't know. Anyway, I would have fell for this, to be honest with you. I mean, everybody, maybe hard to believe it. If a scammer connected my computer and showed me all these different things, I probably would have fell for this. As stupid as it sounds, I would have. And so, don't feel ashamed if you fell for the scam. A lot of people fall for it, and it's very believable. And because of this, people don't like reporting it because they feel embarrassed. But the truth of the matter is that if more people report the scams, the more likely there will be to action taken against the company. So that's something you need to keep in mind. And when you're looking for tech support, if you go to our website, I'm not going to keep it, it's almost a 40-minute video, so I'm not going to keep rambling on. I've rambled long enough. But if you go to our website, there's some things that'll tell you what to do when you're looking for tech support. legit tech support. And I'm going to be updating this page here pretty soon, and when I do, I'll probably make an update video that hopefully isn't 40 minutes long, and I'm going to cover some more things. But with that all being said, I think I pretty much have talked about everything. If there's any tactics you all want me to cover in the future, you can leave them in the comments. If there's something that you think people should know about, you can leave in the comments something that should be added to this video. You can leave it in the comments. But with that all being said, I think I've rabbled and talked for long enough. So it's kind of dry. I hope this helps some people. I went through some of the basic tactics that scammers use. I was actually going to talk about what to do if you're scammed in a separate video, but I guess just kind of conjumbled in this video. Maybe I'll break it up into 2 parts. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, I want to thank you all for watching this video. It was very long, and yeah, I hope this helps people, and I'll see you all in the next video.